Do you want to get married?
Yeah, I want to get married, but more out of necessity of like producing a male heir is really the whole point.
No, I'm just listening. I'm just observing. You can keep going. Continue.
Hi, my name is Alex, and welcome to my channel. Today, I'd like to talk about the weirdly abusive relationship that right-wing women have with conservative party. I found a podcast that Sydney Watson does with her conservative friends. One of her guests was Nick Fuentes. I don't know how popular he is, how known he is, but oh my god, he's the worst person I've ever met. But it's not about him, it's about her, it's about Sydney. Because even though I disagree with every single thing she says, every single thing, she's transphobic, she's homophobic, I mean, she's a right-wing lady, obviously I disagree with her. She comes off as very smart, well-spoken, intelligent person. It's heartbreaking to watch her being surrounded by these awful men who disrespect her just because she's a woman, regardless of her credentials or her intelligence, her insights. They just don't care. And it's really hard to watch. So please watch it with me.
I know about this whole prospect of like living with a woman for the rest of my life. Like, you know, it sounds good at first. It sounds like kind of fun or interesting. You don't have to do laundry. You know, you don't have to worry about kind of taking care of the house. But, you know, then the prospect of just like, it goes on and on and on. And it's decade after decade after decade. And, you know, I don't know how thrilled I am with that whole idea.
Yeah, right. I'd also like to get married, you know, so my husband cooks and cleans and does laundry. I've heard that's what they do. And it sounds amazing because I hate doing all of those things. Then I think about all the nagging and all the all the mansplaining and all the talking, and I don't know. Is it worth it? Cooking, nagging. I don't know.
Do you respect women?
Of course.
Of course. What do you mean? Of course I do. I just call them nagging bitches. Of course I respect them. What a stupid question. Well, at least he respects women enough not to marry them. So, that's good, right?
I would say probably the ideal is something more like Afghanistan, if I'm being totally honest. Like recent,
so what's the difference between
Afghanistan
then and Saudi Arabia?
Like the brutality, I guess. It's like a little, slightly more brutal.
Oh, Afghanistan. The paradise, right? Who wouldn't want to live there? Such an amazing country. Everybody's the winner there. It's amazing. Please go there, Nick. Please just move to Afghanistan. He definitely comes off like a typical guy who would thrive in a truly brutal and violent community. He is the type. Perfect.
Of course, Taliban rule, not American rule. I'm talking about, you know, recent Afghanistan.
So you want women to have the same treatment as women have under Taliban rule in Afghanistan?
Something approximating that, yeah, because, you know, you think about the Taliban and, you know, what they're able to achieve. Here you have these guys with nothing but, you know, some light arms and rags and 20 years, and they were able to defeat the largest military in history. I think that has something to do with the fact that they weren't, like, distracted. You know, they weren't distracted with the kinds of things we are in America. They weren't being nagged. You know, they weren't being bossed around by women. And I don't see really voting as a right, if I'm being totally honest. Like, it's not just women. There's a lot of people that really shouldn't be voting anymore.
Such as?
You know, maybe people that don't own property, young people that work like retail jobs.
He was born in 1998. He's 23. He's younger than most people on any political debate channel podcast. He's 23. He just finished high school a few years ago.
Well, you know, the thing about retail or these service jobs is like, You know, you look at these young people, it's a lot of millennials, Generation Z, and they really don't know how things work. You know what I mean? Like if you own a business, if you own property, even if you're a homeowner, you kind of have an idea of like how things work.
Well, when he says that, he probably believes that he's one of those competent people who can make this choice. And oh boy, I mean, that's fascism, right? Excluding people from voting rights based on socioeconomic status and gender. And basically, even if we remove gender from the equation, only property owners can vote. That's white dudes, that's white guys. We all know that.
Are we going to forfeit the playing field to the left? This is essentially what conservatives have done because they're averse to rule. You know, like when conservatives get in control of Congress or the presidency, what do? Do they go aggressively like the left does and wield the bureaucracy and wield the Congress? Or do they kind of just, you know, well, we're going to cut your taxes and we're going to do this and that. And then the left comes in with a vengeance and they say, we're going to use environmental regulations to take your gun right.
Oh, poor guy. They're taking his guns away to save the planet. Feel so bad. The government is taking away their guns to save the planet. What? Is it worth it? Of course not. And I mean, they're actually not taking their guns anyway, so I don't know what he's talking about.
That's about it. We should have built a wall. We should have went after the endowments for the universities.
His father is half Mexican.
If Trump became like, you know, the Caesar of America, hypothetically, if he had got in 2016 and said, you know what, I'm not leaving, and the courts tell me that I have to leave, well, I'll disobey them, and he went full, you know, Andrew Jackson, I would support it.
Oh my God, the privilege. Dude, you're living in a democracy. Obviously, it's not ideal. America has a lot of issues that they need to deal with, but it's a democracy where your vote actually counts, even though they think it doesn't and they pretend that Trump actually won. There's zero evidence to back that up. And coming from a place where election is obsolete, yeah, you can vote, but your vote is not gonna matter to the slightest, and the government basically fakes the whole thing in front of your eyes. They're not even really hiding it.
Well, I mean, do I need to go to Russia to...
Yes, probably.
Why? I mean, why?
I mean,
it is impossible to fake the election results without any trace of evidence, and there wasn't any evidence, which means that Trump lost. And it's good, even if you're conservative, even if you really, really love Trump, living in a country where democracy actually still exists and people can actually still vote. It's not ideal, it needs improvements, but it still works. And dreaming about living in Russia or Belarus or Kazakhstan with this perpetual president who just will fucking never go away just reeks of privilege and not really knowing what you're talking about.
I've known enough women to know sort of what's going on. And I think any man who is observant enough, and honestly, you know, like I said, we could go back to great geniuses. We could go back to people that have been in relationships. Like a perfect example is like the pickup artists. You know, have you ever noticed that pickup artists who have the most relationships with women and the most sex, what they say is that really with women, it's the same bag of tricks.
At this point, Sydney, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you teach him? Oh, but pickup artists actually are. Yeah, pickup artists are famously the authority on women. Yeah, they know how women work. They have never failed in picking up girls, getting their numbers, talking to them. We have never seen any pickup artist fail to attract a girl. It's just impossible. You just read one book, how to pick up women, and that's it. That's it. That's it. You just go out and any woman is yours.
Oh, hi, excuse me. You're really beautiful. Do you want to be my girlfriend?
This is my boyfriend.
Oh, this is your boyfriend? Oh, I have a goldfish.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we were just talking about shit that didn't matter.
It is so telling of how he sees the world. He just probably saw a few clips on TikTok or YouTube where pickup artists teach men how to hit on girls and like get their numbers and being sleazy with them to them. And he saw that and he just automatically believed that. He was like, yeah, look, there's this boy, he comes up to the girl and she just goes with him. This is 100% authentic. This is 100% true.
I think that kind of tells you something about the nature of women, that, you go from woman to woman and it's the same kind of like little tricks, little things you could say or whatever to kind of hack them and whatever. And I think that kind of says it all about their nature. So,
what does it say about our nature, Nick?
Well, it says that, they're not fully rational. I don't believe that, like men, they possess a sort of full rationality. I think that
rationality towards what specifically?
Well, rationality
just
entirely,
generally?
sort of objective. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they're capable of that. I think that a male has a real impersonal sense of rationality and reason. I think that a female sense is far more personal, and that derives from the fact that women are made to bear children. Women are made with their wombs to bear children, and so I think their whole consciousness is basically, it's wrapped up, it's bound up in this idea that they've got to carry a child and then raise a child.
Yeah, women can hold only one thought in their brains. It is a known fact. So if we think about bearing children, even if we don't have children and don't want to have children, we still think about it all the time because that's our brain. It's just all children, just children. And there's just not enough space for any other thoughts. You can see when Sydney talks, she only talks about children, right? Just won't shut up about children all the time. Children, babies, married children, just won't shut up. I mean, so annoying. Jesus. And at this point of the interview, it's the first time when you can actually see Sydney's reaction. Like, not very vivid reaction, but still, she like goes like this a little bit. And this is the first time she does it, or at least it's caught on camera, I don't know. And oh my God, I feel so bad for her this moment. It's painful to watch not because I care about what this 20-year-old white supremacist Holocaust denier and an incel, self-proclaimed incel, says. It's not about him having a platform, which is painful enough, but whatever. It's about Sydney and how she has to sit there and listen to this man and pretend that, like, try to find something in common for him to relate to her, for him to see her as a conservative peer, as someone worthy of, having an opinion. She's probably smarter than most people, most men in the room at any point. I mean, we're talking about conservative party. I do not agree with her beliefs. I am very, 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 very much on the other side of the spectrum. I do not agree with anything she says on her channel. Nothing. But she's a well-spoken, smart, intelligent woman. She knows how to express her opinions. She knows how to back them up with statistics and she just makes sense. She's a coherent person with ideas and beliefs, regardless of where they came from, regardless of why she has those beliefs. I don't know, but I kind of wish she was on the other side. But whatever, that's her life. And men in the conservative side are, like Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan. They just talk fast. And they just think that they are so smart just by default, that they don't really have to try to be smart. They don't really have to try. They just talk and make offensive comments towards women, and that's basically it. And for her to get to where she is, and she has a huge channel on YouTube, it's like 600,000 subscribers. And I mean, she has her own podcast. So for her to get to where she is, that took a lot of time, that took a lot of work and effort, and she did it, and good for her, honestly. I salute all the women, regardless on which side, for being able to kind of break this glass ceiling. Good for her. And it's probably even harder in the Conservative Party to do that because men don't take you seriously, and that's what's happening. And she's probably the smartest person in the room most of the time. And she has to talk to shitty little pricks like Nick Fuentes and try to appease to him, like try to prove to them that she's smart enough, that she's good enough, that she's conservative enough. That's gonna come up a little later when he's like, explain yourself, how are you conservative? Like, the fuck, he never asked any other guys. There were 3 other people in the room besides Sydney and Nick. He never asked them to prove their conservatism. Like, they're just believed by default. But she has to prove herself. Sydney, what are you doing there?
I don't think that I need to live in Russia to know that we would rather have right-wing people running America than left-wing people. You know, I think that's kind of an asinine sort of thing, which people like to trot out, and they say, well, you haven't, you know, we could qualify it with all kinds of things, but the way that we live in America is unacceptable. I mean, there's homeless people everywhere. The crime's out of control. It's a corrupt country. It's a failing country.
Yeah, like Russia, that famously has no homeless people problem, no crime, no corruption. Russia is globally known for having almost like no corruption. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to be like Russia? Russia is amazing. You should really go there. You know, Putin will just grant you citizenship because that's what he does now. That's like part of his job, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. He just gives those away like candy. And you're white, you're American, and you're right wing. And you have following on the internet. He will be so happy to see you and to accept you. Just go there, dude. Just go to Russia. This privileged white boy grew up in wealth and stability and has wet dreams about living under Putin's regime. Living in a country that has had the same president since 1999 and will probably have the same president until at least 2036 and maybe even longer, just until he dies. In a country where on national TV they were talking for hours and for days. They were devoting political debate and political talk shows. They were devoting hours and hours of airtime to discuss the dress that Haley Gamble was wearing while interviewing Putin. They devoted hours of very expensive national TV airtime to dissect her outfit, her shoes, her hair, the way she was touching her hair. It was disgusting to watch that on national TV. Like adult men and women, mostly men of course, just talking how this, you know, intelligent, well-educated woman, I mean, she got the gig to interview president. Like that's impressive. I don't know her resume, but I'm pretty sure it's impressive enough to have gotten, you know, this role. Like that's super impressive. So she's this, I mean, she's well-spoken, smart woman, but instead of talking about that, like no one even discussed the interview. They just dismissed it and they were just talking about her fucking dress and Louboutin shoes for hours. But I honestly don't think that he knows what he's talking about. If he actually goes to Russia and lives there for, I don't know, let's say a year, I don't think he would want to emulate this regime in the United States. I really, really doubt it. Not to say there are no people in Russia who support Putin and current regime, they are, but these people are comparing current quality of life to the 90s. And compared to the 90s, yeah, it's amazing. But more and more people don't even remember the 90s. People like myself, I was born in the 90s, but I was a child, I don't remember. So there are like a few generations already, like at least 2 generations, millennials and Gen Z, that grew up without really remembering the 90s. And so they don't really have this frame of reference. They can't really compare it to anything. And they're hating it because it's bad. Yeah, more and more people are leaving Russia every year. Like millions of people just fleeing the country, especially young people, because it's getting worse and worse.
Think about how Europe and America used to be 100 years ago. I mean, it's no contest compared to the kind of scum and degeneracy and the awful things that we see today.
Oh yeah, right. Europe and America 100 years ago. Don't we all miss it? It was amazing. We had the Spanish flu, the First World War, revolutions across the planet, the Great Depression. People were dying from like everything, just all the time. Segregation. It was an amazing time, right? How did we forget about it? We should really go back, for sure. Good point.
But I was saying to Elijah, it's interesting. I think you're being very respectful, and I think that's really nice because people make you out to be this, assassin that's going to just stab everybody in the face.
Yeah, this is basically the moment I was leading to. It was so hard to watch. She was visibly uncomfortable when he was, talking about women during the interview, and she just goes ahead and says that he's polite and respectful, which is mind-blowing coming from her. And I don't understand why, Sydney, why are you still trying to appeal to this demographic after hearing what they actually think about. That's what I mean by abusive relationship. If a father tells his daughter over and over again that she's worthless, that no one will ever marry her, which means that she's worthless, and she's only good enough for, making children, having children, caring for children, that she shouldn't really aspire to do anything career-wise or outside of this family world. And the woman is, like in this scenario, is like Sydney. She's smart, she's driven, she's ambitious, and she does have something to say. Again, I do not agree with that, but it doesn't mean that she's not smart. And even though he puts her down, she shuts her down all the time, she's still trying to impress him. She's still trying to make him like her. She's still trying to prove that they're on the same side, that she's worth something, that she can help him in a way, that she can prove herself to be something that he doesn't believe she can achieve. And this is a definition of an abusive relationship, and it's so hard to watch. And oh my God, and she's still trying to impress him throughout the interview. She's still trying to find this connection to show to him that she is worth something, that her opinion matters, and he still doesn't care. And he will never care. And he will never respect you, and he will never care. That's just the truth. Regardless of what you do, what you say, he will never truly care, because you're a woman in the room full of men whose opinion is by default more important than yours, even if you are smarter. And it's heartbreaking, and it actually made me cry yesterday when I was watching it for the first time. Now it's, I don't know, like 4th time I'm watching it. But it was just this breaking moment that made me think about this abusive relationship right-wing women trap themselves in. But yeah, they find themselves in this abusive relationship that is very hard to get out of.
The thing about our people, me and my followers, is that we are really oppressed.
He and his followers, mostly consist of young white dudes, are very, very oppressed. I don't really understand when white guys talk about being oppressed. I mean, obviously it's a reactionary thing. Like women say they're oppressed, black people say they're oppressed, and they're like, no, we are oppressed. It's just a reactionary movement, because if you break it down, how can you be oppressed by someone who is in your mind beneath you? So you think that women are inferior to men, they are irrational, they're too emotional, they can't make decisions, whatever. So you believe that, truly. How can you be oppressed by them then? It's like if a child, a 5-year-old, calls you a bad name, calls you like a C word, you wouldn't feel offended by it because it's a child. You know that they're underdeveloped, they're still, growing. They don't really know what this word means. They don't really know how to use it or how not to use it. They don't know. And you realize that, and you just explain it to them. And that's it. And you move on. You're not mad at this 5-year-old for calling you a C word, right? You just move on. So how can you be oppressed by a portion of population that you think is inferior to you? Wouldn't you feel kind of sympathetic towards them? If someone is like weaker than you or less intelligent than you, you would be a little more empathetic. You would actually try to explain things to them, maybe like that incel guy on the Middle Ground, and he was like, women are like children and they should be protected. And here, I almost puked when I heard that, but at least I can understand what he's coming from. He thinks that women are irrational, dumb, blah blah blah. So he looks at them like children, and he wants to protect them and help them. I'm not justifying his behavior, his ideas. It's all piece of crap, but at least I can understand his logic. And in this case, I don't understand. How can you be oppressed by a 5-year-old? Or even an army of 5-year-olds? They're still 5. They're still children. They're still, not there yet intellectually. How can you be offended or oppressed?
The following you have built doesn't understand when you're being satirical or you're making a joke. So do you have concerns that maybe they're going to ruin your message?
Not really, only because, I really have no control over what happens after I tell the message. And, once again, we can get caught up in
But isn't it your movement?
Yeah, it is, of course.
So shouldn't you have some sort of control as someone in favor of authoritarianism?
Well, I mean, I control like an organization, and I control the messaging that comes from me and from my show. But as far as like what my followers take from that, I can't control how people respond to it or how they interpret it.
Oh yeah, he's the truth teller. The favorite kind of guy who just always tells the truth. He's the kind of guy who will tell you to smile more, because you're prettier when you smile, or that you're wearing too much makeup, or that you've gained a few pounds, or that you're too thin, or that your dress is too slutty, or why aren't you dressing more feminine? The truth teller.
The reason why they're oppressed is these are young guys. These are young, virile, like in so many cases, teenagers, 20-something. A lot of people think they're mostly white. There's a lot of Hispanics. There's a lot of black guys. They're mostly guys. And, their whole lives, they have been oppressed. They've been oppressed by, their parents, their libtard parents, if their parents are divorced or overbearing moms, oppressed by the education system, oppressed by the media. Everything's been taken from them. Their movies, their video games, the women have been alienated and turned against them. Everything's been taken away.
Oh yeah, those poor oppressed white boys who think they're entitled to sex and a family. Poor guys. Those Elliot Rodgers fans who just cannot grasp why girls aren't attracted to them, why girls don't like them after they tell them that their sole purpose in this world is to procreate. Why are they leaving? Why are they running away? What is happening? I am entitled to your affection because I'm a man. There is gonna be a mass shooting in his name, for sure. Some fan of his and Elliot Rodgers, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of overlap there, is gonna grab a fucking gun, because it's the United States and guns are everywhere, and shoot people because he thinks he's entitled.
I don't have any sound bites from you saying things about women, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But if you do have some sort of bizarre opinion towards women that might not be based in reality, but rather from, I don't know, maybe a negative experience, maybe trauma. I don't know what your background's like. And I'm saying, like, maybe there's some issues here that need to be unpacked.
I have a good example
especially
of this.
for, you know, some of your audience. I'm assuming that they've not had particularly nice experiences in life so far. But rather than, you know, going into the world being angry and trying to bash people because they don't 100% align with you, I don't understand how that's pushing the envelope or helping anybody.
But that's not it. We're not bashing people
Dude,
because
do
they don't
you read
align.
the stuff that your people say? And
But
they make it personal too. They're not saying you've got a shit idea. They attack you as a human being.
See, this is what I'm talking about. It's just sort of like this, like, don't you think that's problematic?
Now he's like mimicking her and making fun of her. It's just, Sydney, it's so hard to watch. What are you doing there? Why are you there? Why? You're a smart, strong-minded woman. Why are you allowing this little piece of shit to talk to you this way? You are smarter than him, you're older than him, you're probably better educated than him. You have a following online. Also, you're not just, you know, a person from the streets. Why are you enabling this behavior on your podcast? On your podcast? Why are you allowing this to happen? Why aren't you calling him for what he is? Because even as a conservative woman, you still disagree with his opinions about women, and you say that. Why don't you catch him on his, you know, stupid and inconsistent beliefs and ideas? Why don't you say that? It's really hard to watch. So she's trying to ask him a question, and he just mimics her and like goes like this and rolls his eyes and just pretends that she's just, you know, just a woman talking, and like, oh my God, no. Woman talking to me, Jesus Christ. And then her co-host, I don't remember his name, asks similar question, not the same. He kind of rephrases it through this male perception of the world, but whatever, it's a similar question, and he just answers it. He just goes ahead and answers it without like rolling his eyes and pretending that the question wasn't smart enough or whatever. And when the co-host asks the question, I said that he rephrased it, and basically he talks about his wife, and that his wife is a good woman because she's a stay-at-home mom, which is the only type of woman that is good. And Sydney is there. She is obviously not a stay-at-home mom. She's a successful political commentator with a YouTube following, podcasts, I don't know, maybe something else. I don't really know her biography that well. But she's clearly not following the standards of a traditional good woman. And she's just, you know, sitting there and just, it doesn't make sense to me. And it's not, you know, it's not a political issue like climate change, gun control, masks that can be debated. I mean, it really shouldn't be debated, but it is debated and it will be debated, whatever. It can be debated, people talk about it. But when it's about her personal rights to vote, to have a career, to get an education, to do whatever she wants to do, how can you be on board with that or just tolerate it and being surrounded by it? It's mine. I don't understand. And that's the situation when I was in high school, and you know, not like other girls was like the biggest trend that unfortunately I was following. But it's also because of media and how they used to portray women, and they were just so unrelatable because they were written by a man that it was just impossible to relate to them. So you're kind of like, oh, maybe I'm not like other girls, whatever. Long story. So I kind of was that, and most of my, like a lot of my friends were guys, and I wanted that. Like, you know, I'm not like other girls. I have like guy friends. Not because I liked them or wanted a romantic relationship. I just wanted to have guy friends. And I succeeded at it at some point. And I remember I was like at one of the guys' house, and we're like all together, and I was hanging out with guys, and I remember thinking that, what am I doing here? Like, these are not the people who actually care about me, that like want to be my friends. I'm just like a laughing stock, basically. They would like make jokes at my expense about like that I wasn't, like, implying that I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't know enough facts or whatever, and they weren't doing it maliciously, I think, but it still felt this way. It still felt mostly very uncomfortable, and like, why did I put myself in this situation? Why didn't I just hang out with girls who could relate to me, who did like me, who did care about me? Not all of them, but you know, but instead I just trapped myself in this community for, I don't know, no reason really. And I mean, hopefully it fell apart right after we graduated high school, and that's it. I never actually saw these people ever since. But if it happened to me when I was an adult, like Sydney, and I mean, it's really hard to get out of it. And I feel so bad for her. She's a smart adult woman who is sitting on her podcast listening to this 20-year-old prick who's still not even done developing. Like, we're growing till we're 25. He's still not technically even an adult, really. I mean, legally he is, but like, not really. And she has to listen to him saying that she's worthless and incapable and irrational, just because she's a woman, just because his parents, or you know, basically anyone else, no one ever held him accountable for his actions or his words. He truly believes that he can say whatever he wants anytime he wants, and no one will actually be offended by it. And if they are offended by it, it doesn't matter. There are no consequences for his actions. He can do whatever he wants, and he will never get punished for it. That's what he thinks. I mean, I hope it's not true. I hope he will face some consequences. I mean, he kind of has with the, you know, he was banned on multiple platforms, but then again, I mean, there are other platforms. Like, he still has his podcast just on another platform. So this doesn't really feel like a punishment to me, to be honest. I hope some karmically or whatever he's gonna get punished. Honestly, also for his sake, not for our sake too as a humanity, but also for his sake, because if you do bad actions and you never get any repercussions, you start to believe that it's okay to do that, and it's hard to get out of this circle. It's not a good situation. We need this, and I mean by punishment, I mean, you know, your friend gets mad, or your parents punish you when you're a child. They like ground you or whatever. It doesn't have to be like massive punishment, but just some consequences for your actions. It just needs to be. Anyways, it was interesting to me to watch Sydney Watson, the woman that I do not like, for her views. I mean, not personally, I don't know her personally, but I do not like or share her views. It was interesting to watch this interview where I could sympathize. I did sympathize. I just felt so bad. And it was the first time when I kind of saw her as a human being and not just, you know, this political commentator on her show, on her YouTube channel. And the fact that I could actually empathize with her says a lot about Nick. At the end of the day, I just hope that she's okay, because maybe I was wrong. Maybe she's actually okay listening to these views. I don't know. I don't know how you can be okay. I just hope that she's fine. I just hope that she will find a way to get out of this toxic situation, of this toxic relationship. Because I don't see how it can make you happy or content or anything. It just kind of destroys you, being surrounded by that every day, and being surrounded by men like that every day. It just destroys you. And the entire Conservative Party is men like that, like her co-hosts, and sometimes even like Nick Fuentes. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, and have a good week.